2024 has probably been my best year for reading manga. Nearly everything I've read this year has been enjoyable, and I've only dropped a couple of series. In this quick video, I'm going to give you my personal top 5 that I read this year. I'm basing this list on how much I personally enjoyed them. I won't spoil too much about the series. I will mainly detail the basics of what each series is about and what I find interesting about them. Now, let's get into the list. At 5th for me is Air Gear by Oh Great. I'm 200 chapters through this story and I have loved it. Air Gear follows Iki and his crew as they learn about the world of air treks, which are basically high-powered rollerblades that allow you to perform incredible aerial movements as well as being able to wall ride. The world is surprisingly big, with many different crews that own their own territory and compete against each other in part wars where the winning team gets parts for their air treks, or compete to take over the other crew's territory and eliminate them from the air trek world. I really like the premise of watching this up-and-comer rise through the ranks and the twist the series takes at around the midway point. Iki and his quest for freedom is very fun to watch, plus I like the very cocky and arrogant characters, and Iki has that in abundance. He reminds me a lot of Soma from Food Wars. They are both just two characters that seem so assured in every situation, no matter the odds or how dire it might seem. I had never read anything by Oh Great before this, and I was pleasantly surprised by how good his art is. The way he draws motion is so captivating, how the characters' clothes move while they ride, and the symbolic imagery he uses for each rider's style. He is certainly a talented artist, and I'm surprised I haven't seen his art more online. I mean, just look at these. I won't comment any more on the story, as I still have 130 chapters left, but this has been a great read that I recommend to any sports enjoyer or someone who likes the streetwear aesthetic, as the clothing designs are very cool and unique to each character. This is certainly a unique read for me at least, and enjoyable from the very start. At number 4 is Dandadan by Tatsu Yukinobu. Now I can already tell that some of you think I've put this too low, and it's certainly a great read, but I just like everything else on this list a bit more. I know the anime adaptation has taken the world by storm, and rightfully so, it looks amazing, but I'm just going to focus on the manga. Dandadan is certainly one of the most unique manga to come out in recent time, with the series having many pop culture references sprinkled into its plot and an overall bizarre narrative centered around aliens, spirits, and high school students who have to battle them. The story follows Okuran and Momo, who argue with each other over whether aliens or spirits are real, and they set out to prove the other wrong. This is when the weirdness begins, with each running into the very thing they try to disprove. Okuran finds a spirit, and Momo runs into aliens, and thus the story begins. Almost in contrast to the strange story is the beautiful art that complements each chapter, and I was absolutely stunned to find out that this manga is drawn physically and not digitally. I mean, some of the detail on some of these panels is just absurd. I couldn't imagine how much time it would take to draw these, especially during the board game arc where Momo tries to find Zuma. This arc is littered with highly detailed double spreads that just wow you every time you see them. The fights are also incredibly fun and exciting. A highlight of mine would be when Kinta fights the wannabe Godzilla. It was just all kinds of wacky, but drawn with so much detail, it was so fun to read, and it really highlighted the randomness of Dandadan's plot. Now, to balance out all the goofy aspects of the series, is the absolutely tragic backstory some of the characters have. Zuma's, in my opinion, is the most tragic, losing both parents and his brother in the worst possible ways. His relationship with the police officer who takes him in being the only positive in his life until he meets Momo. Dandadan is a must-read for shonen fans and anyone who wants to try something outside of the box. Not to mention, it's fun spotting all the various references to other forms of media and urban legends, like an obvious Godzilla and Alien reference. Definitely try this manga when you get the chance, it's certainly a unique experience. At 3rd is Tower Dungeon by Nihei Tsutomu. I have already done a video on this series, so you should check that out if this intrigues you. I'll link the video in the description. I will quickly break down the story and what interests me about it. Tower Dungeon follows Yuva, a farm boy who is tasked to enter the Dragon's Tower, a mythical floating tower that holds great treasures and even greater threats. The reason Yuva and many others have been entering the tower is to rescue Princess Ignelia, who has been kidnapped by a powerful necromancer and taken into the tower. Yuva and his fellow knights traverse the hundreds of levels up the tower, encountering many challenges and dangerous monsters that aim to halt their progression. The fantasy setting provides a wide variety of different creatures to encounter, from dragons and undead to more obscure and unique creatures like the Draco Metamorphs, a half-human half-dragon race that switches between a more human-like form and a dragon form. And dungeon dwellers that steal supplies from people entering the tower and hide away in hard-to-reach places throughout the tower. Nihei Tsutomu is certainly having a lot of fun with designing the inhabitants of this world. Tsutomu is best known for his architecture, and Tower Dungeon certainly has beautiful architecture. Lovely panels greet us as Yuva ventures throughout the tower, and we get to see more of Tsutomu's beautifully crafted structures. I and a lot of others have been happily surprised by this manga. Tsutomu is known for his sci-fi manga and hasn't really attempted fantasy before, and much to my surprise, he's nailing it so far. I also like that Tower Dungeon is a seinen because I personally like dark fantasy more than regular fantasy, and Tower Dungeon certainly has some dark moments. I won't spoil any more, but if you're a fan of Tsutomu's works, or dark fantasy in general, this is definitely something I highly recommend. I look forward to binging more chapters when they build up, and I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments on Tower Dungeon and any manga I mention in this video. The last two on this list were very hard to decide on. They are nearly interchangeable, but at second I've chosen Hat Atelier by Shirahama Kamome. Earlier this year I decided to read what I'm calling the big three in modern fantasy, which for me is Frieren, Dungeon Meshi and Hat Atelier, and I thought Hat Atelier would be the least enjoyable of the three, but by chapter 5 it had well and truly shocked me. The art and characters are amazing and the various concepts you're introduced to were so enjoyable to read and contemplate. Hat Atelier was easily the best of the three, and for me it wasn't even close. The story follows Coco, a young girl who is amazed by magic and wishes so badly she could use it. But you have to be born with the ability to use magic, and unfortunately, she is not. She tries to recreate magic from a book she was given by a mysterious man, and she accidentally crystallizes her mother. A travelling witch named Kifri takes her in and vows to teach her magic so that one day she can save her mother. There is so much to love about this series, especially the characters. Kifri is easily my favourite and has quickly become my favourite mentor character in manga and anime. He is so caring for all of his students while also being his own individual with his own motivations and goals. I won't be spoiling much about these characters, but when the anime comes out, he will clearly be the fan favourite. The magic system is very unique, with the magic being drawings. Each student learns various glyphs that conjure different forms of magic. Each magic user has their own strengths and weaknesses that you watch them work on as the story goes on, and it's very cool to see how everyone grows and learns. And not only is the manga's art unbelievable, but it has the best paneling in all of manga. This is just my opinion, but I'm yet to read a manga that conveys its panels in a more creative way. Whether it's leeches growing across the page as it grows in the story, or the way the author presents important panels, it's seriously a joy to look at, and these are just a few examples of the dozens that are spread throughout this amazing story. Fantasy lovers would love this manga, but honestly, I think everyone should at least give it a try, and expect a video on it in the future. And at my number 1, I have Choujin X by Sui Ishida. This is another manga I've done a video on, so I'll link the video in the description if you want to see more. Choujin X is Sui Ishida's first manga since completing Tokyo Ghoul, and it's amazing in my opinion. Choujin X follows Tokyo Kurahara, a high school student who after some crazy events gains Choujin powers. Choujin are basically people with powers, but these powers can range from the ability to transform someone into a box and being able to shoot fire and smoke from your body. The various Choujin powers are fun to see in action, and the characters that wield them are just as interesting and colourful. Sui Ishida, as usual, has produced phenomenal art that elevates each event we see. The fact this manga is completely solo is insane. His storytelling has also grown with amazing world building that fleshes out the past of the Choujin world. This story starts a little bit slow, but once it picks up momentum, it's hard to put it down. From the action scenes to the commentary on fate and how that affects your actions, this manga isn't only introspective, but a spectacle to look at as you read. Choujin X is another I recommend everyone read, but if you like Tokyo Ghoul or darker stories, I think you would really like Choujin X. I can't wait to see how this story progresses, and I am excited to see what Ishida does with these characters. Well, this is the end of the video. If you liked it, please like and subscribe, and let me know what you think about my selection. I'm excited to see what manga will top my list in 2025, and what new releases will take the world by storm. Well, until next time, bye!